Hello, I'm Michael. Welcome to Ask the Professional. Today we have an amazing show. I'd like to introduce my guest, Myra Meyer, who is here from the Women's Fund. And let's just get right to it because there's so much information that we can start with. Why don't we start with what the show's about domestic violence?
Yes, sir.
If you've been blessed and haven't experienced it, what does it look like? How do you tell somebody what it looks like?
Domestic violence has very many faces, and it can happen in any neighborhood. It can happen to anybody at any age. And the important thing is for us to recognize that most people who are quote unquote victims are often the last to recognize it. So it is incumbent on all of us to know that it will cross our paths and that there's always something you can do about it. Every 20 minutes, there's a victim of domestic or intimate partner violence in the United States. So it will cross our path. And here, because of what you all are doing today, people are going to know what they can do about it when it does.
So it has nothing to do with how much money you have or don't have.
It does not. It's interesting because the Women's Fund Miami-Dade works with many, many, many community partners on various public awareness campaigns. So we can be talking about many, many different issues, and some of those do vary depending on the zip code. Domestic violence is not one of those. It can happen anywhere to anyone.
Right. So you want to tell everybody actually what's the Women's Fund and
Yes.
what do you provide?
The Women's Fund Miami-Dade was established by some amazing, forward-thinking women about 30 years ago who realized that the issues that affect women and girls are different than affect all the general population. And it's so important to look with a gender lens because when you improve the lives of women and girls, you improve the entire community. So we're based on 4 basic pillars.
Let me just 1 second. It's my understanding that this can also happen to men.
Domestic violence?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And intimate
I don't think
partner
people realize
violence?
that it can happen to men also.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
can. And we work very, very closely with wonderful friends, service providers, and community partners. Very particular, I'll mention Survivors Pathways, which is a very important organization that helps with domestic violence of
Right.
all survivors, especially of all orientations in the LGBTQI population.
Right.
And the gentleman who runs Pathways, Francesco Duberli, is also the chair of the Domestic Violence Coalition, of which many of us partner. So yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's go
No,
back
well,
to
well,
what's the
well,
Women's Fund.
listen, we work across 4 pillars. We work on health and well-being, leadership, economic mobility, and very near and dear to my heart and how I became involved in the Women's Fund is freedom from violence. So freedom from violence is an essential human right that enables us to fulfill our lives as human beings. And we've worked very, very closely for many years with many community partners, considering ourselves the village square. When people want to come and focus on these issues, where can they come together to share resources, to share concerns, and to come together about these issues? So, Michael, when you and I were speaking over the weekend, and I could talk to you for hours, and I
Right.
really appreciate this whole platform and your particular human support and
That's what
focus
this
on
show's
this
about.
issue.
I just, there's so much and we need to help people. So this is what I've been given an opportunity by this newspaper to do this. So
Well, it's an important thing. It's an
Yeah.
important thing. So when COVID hit, I began getting calls from Judge Carol Kelly, who leads the domestic violence courts, from our amazing state attorney, Catherine Fernandez Rundle, who has a domestic violence head, Daryl Ambrosini. They work very specifically with trauma-informed law enforcement for domestic violence cases. So important that they have that lens. And from Miami-Dade's Coordinated Victims Assistance Center. So Yvonne Mace, who also happens to be on our board, but somebody we've worked with very, very closely, is your home stop for assistance across the board in Miami-Dade County. And we do, I know your team has that phone number, that contact number up there through the Miami-Dade Coordinated Victims Assistance Center 24 hours a day. You can get to the state attorney's domestic violence line. You can get to the court system. You can go to their assistance center physically and get not only shelter, but you can also talk to the courts You can get all the support you need in a one-stop shop. It's pretty amazing what our community has to offer us. But it's also pretty amazing that most people don't know what to do when it crosses their path. And programs like this will really help people to get those tools.
So you're kind of coordinating the whole city system all together. Everybody's kind of in conjunction together. They kind of work together a little bit, and
that's how things work.
Right.
Different people are connected to different. They hear differently. Some people see differently. Some people trust differently. So if the head of your PTA knows to come to the Women's Fund because there you can get information on all of these issues, if your pastor, your priest, or the head of your temple, feels knows where to get the information, the stronger we communicate, the stronger is our fabric in Miami-Dade County. And there are many people who are communicating very well. And it's mind-blowing to see how many people we have each monthly at our Impact Collaboratives through the Women's Fund Miami-Dade who come together to talk about these issues. And that's what happened in May.
Right.
So I think you got to us because you saw that in May our Impact Collaborative had many of those amazing leaders all together because they said, Maria, the Women's Fund has to help us get the word out that although the domestic violence statistics are skyrocketing internationally and nationally, our calls are down to the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center, to the Domestic Violence Hotline, and to the courts. What is going on?
Right.
So those people came together from the state attorney's office, from the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center. Judge Carol Kelly herself came, as well as one of our amazing community survivor champion and leaders, Dr. Brooke Bello. So they all came together to say, the courts are open, the domestic violence hotline is open and at your disposal, and the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center has never closed. Our shelters are open. We are following protocols, and we can help you if you're afraid because your perpetrator is right there. We are going to help you make a plan, and there's always something you can do about it.
Yeah.
So they're open and ready for business. And I'll have to say that after that campaign that we got together on the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center Impact Collaborative, we did a pretty amazing public awareness campaign that was funded by amazing supporters who donated and said, yes, we need people to know where to go, what to do.
Yeah.
And should I talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, let's go to that. You brought up one thing about the reason I wanted to do this show is because I've been hearing that just one of the many problems that have been skyrocketing because of the COVID pandemic has been domestic violence. So are there actual numbers that is it possible to know really how much different it is than before? I mean, it's always been a terrible problem, but I think it's worse right now.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, the national statistic has just come out that they estimate that domestic violence is up 30% across the nation. And there will be more and more statistics here in Miami-Dade as the studies come through. We do have many, many municipalities and coordinating all the stats. The most important thing to know is that before we had our domestic violence campaign with everyone working together to get the word out, calls were way down and now they're way up.
Right.
And so they're up staffing at the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center and at the courts and the state attorney's office is always ready to help. So yes, the numbers are way up.
Yeah. When you mentioned that the calls were down, all of a sudden it struck me that I think, this is a personal opinion, but I think there's a segment of population that has grown up and understands what domestic violence is. It's been part of their life. Unfortunately, that it is just a part of life. And I'm wondering now if there's a segment that has never experienced it before. And so now they don't know what it is, they don't know what to do, and they don't know they're lost, you know. So that kind of was my thought when you said the calls were done. I think there's a whole new segment that doesn't know what's happening.
You're absolutely right. That they don't know what's happening. It's very difficult to extricate what frustration and anger are from somebody you care about, because people argue.
Right.
And extricating and calling something clinically, I am a victim of domestic violence, takes a long, long time. It's not about a label. It's about understanding that that behavior is not okay. Getting away is important. It is good to diffuse, bring the temperature down, look for support, and there is support. It doesn't mean because somebody's been a victim of, is experiencing domestic violence, that they can never be together with their partner again. You had on one of your shows that I just watched these incredible talents at the
Trauma Resolution Center.
Resolution
They're
Center.
amazing.
They're brilliant to help everyone cope with trauma, whether you're experiencing it on the side of receiving it, or, and very especially, and I personally know people who've gone there for services because they've found themselves as perpetrators.
Right.
Not being able to control themselves, not understanding what they can do about it. And the Trauma Resolution Center, for example, that works very directly with the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center of our own civil servants, Miami-Dade County, are there to help. Most people don't know that, and I wouldn't know that
Right.
unless I'd become interested. I mean, I'm a mom and a businesswoman, and I became interested in these issues, and I learned. And we started creating tools to let other people learn. So I hope other people see themselves in me. I'm a regular person, and started seeing that this was happening. And I said, okay, now that I know, what can I do about it?
Right.
And there's a lot we can do. There's
Well,
always something you can do.
Yeah. I mean, this is yet another subject that people are afraid to talk about. It's hidden. There's so much shame attached to it. There's so much not having information. There's so much not knowing. There's so many things that are added to it that, and that's the purpose. I want to talk about it. I want everybody watching this to talk about it. I want you to forward this video, and you never know who you're going to save. It's because you don't always know. It's sometimes you can sense, who's experiencing it, but usually it's hidden, so you don't know. Because people are very good at hiding this.
Very good at hiding it. And as I said before, not necessarily recognizing it. Patience and consistency, but steadfastness is really, really important. If you are with somebody who you know is experiencing, who you believe is experiencing domestic violence, you can also call and get counseling yourself. Even the people like from 211, if you can't remember the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center number, you can call a very simple JCS 211, and they can help you find services. I need counseling because I can't talk to my best friend about what I believe is intimate partner, domestic violence. I'm afraid for her life, but she won't go. What do I do? 211, for example, can connect you to counselors who can help you build up your knowledge
base. Yeah. So you get schooled about it, and then maybe help your friend or your family member or even your next door neighbor that you don't even know.
And you can call 911. Let's not call 911. If somebody is in immediate physical danger, you should call 911. And the state attorney's office domestic violence hotline is a specialized number. So if you have the wherewithal to say, I would like somebody specialized in domestic violence to attend to this call, it's going to be a better outcome.
So there are people there ready to help you and help you, school you and teach you and give you the information so you don't feel so helpless. Because if you know somebody, it's a very helpless feeling to know somebody who's suffering like that and not be able to help them. So that's amazing that they can get some information like that.
It is, and human beings are amazing when they feel empowered. Right. Most people I find are overwhelmed when they see something that's horrific and they don't know what to do about it. So we developed these, as you and I spoke over the weekend, these what you should know and what you can do cards. And I know nobody's going to be able to read it very well here, but we do have digital copies of these. I've sent you the link, and you can find them on our womensfundmiami.org. So this is if people are saying domestic violence, it's not really going to affect me. Well, every 20 minutes, people are victims of domestic or dating violence, and 1 out of 3 teens will experience some form of physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse from a dating partner. That's real. These are stats. It's going to cross your path. What you do about it is the most important thing. Never believe there's never anything you can do about it, because there's always something you can do about it, whether it's calling 911 or 211 or calling the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center or diffusing the situation and letting somebody come out with you so they can get their bearings and so they can feel empowered to act. There's always something you can do. And those numbers are here, and the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center is right there scrolling through, and they can get you to a lot of other services. Those 39 or 40 services are housed within the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center. And as I said, our domestic violence courts and the state attorney's office on the law enforcement side are really trauma informed and prepared and ready to help.
So if you know somebody and you want to try to learn and what you can do, I think a lot of people have a lot of fear that they're going to get dragged in, or the abuser is going to come after them and it's going to be dangerous for them. Is it possible to stay anonymous and help who you know?
I happen to know from I knew that was true, that you could stay anonymous, but I happen to know from about 3 weeks ago, somebody that we know, because we did all this, the Women's Fund, we were responsible for the official Stop Sex Trafficking campaign,
Right.
the Miami Super Bowl host committee. So some people that we had known, because we cast such a wide net, called and said, okay, we have a friend definitely experiencing domestic violence, can't really hear it from us. What do we do? So we called together, and I called the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center with those folks on the line, and yes, it was absolutely possible to be anonymous. You can also be anonymous if you call 911, and you can also be anonymous if you call 211. So, yes.
And nobody will find out about you, and nobody will come attack you, and nobody will come to your house, and you may save a life.
You may save a life. And in fact, your gut's pretty smart. So if you follow your gut and you are nervous that you throwing yourself in between two people who are, experiencing domestic violence, your gut's probably right. Go to the people who are trained.
Right.
Go to the people.
Yeah, because unfortunately, this is a life or death situation. This escalates to the point of death. And people don't understand that, I don't think.
Yvonne Mesa, who runs the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center, it shocks me every time she says it when we're on a panel together. She said, the number one most preventable cause of death for women is domestic violence.
Wow. Yeah.
Heart disease might be number one, but the most preventable is domestic violence.
Right. Now, if you're experiencing and you're suffering and you don't know what's happening, if any of these numbers, do they actually tell you what to do, like how to get out? And is there like a list that you can get and say, oh, okay, you need to do this?
They will do a plan for you.
You get a whole plan
and with
from
domestic violence, it's really important to have a plan. Very important to have a plan.
And you can get some guidance and support that way.
Evidence-based.
To help you get out.
Long-time professionals.
Right.
With guidance. And as you can see the Domestic Violence Impact Collaborative that we did in May, we record them all, so they're also on YouTube, and they're also on Women's Fund Miami.org site. You can see them. So you'll hear Judge Kelly, Daryl Ambrosini from the State Attorney's Office, Yvonne Mesa from CVAC, all say, we don't care which one of us you call. If it's easier for you to go to a courthouse, if you want to call law enforcement and you can get that number, if you don't want to call law enforcement and you want to go to the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center because you're afraid of law enforcement for whatever, we don't care. We just want you to go. We'll find each other and we'll get you the services that you need.
Right. And it's not only just for the person. If there's children involved too, they'll help get the children out too, and let you know what resources are there if you're a family group trying to get out.
You are so right, Michael. You're so right. So we did, after that Impact Collaborative where we had all these amazing professionals talk about what's going on with domestic violence, we did a public awareness campaign, which Women's Fund is really good at doing. So a lot of people saw the Stop Sex Trafficking one for the Super Bowl host committee. Well, we did a brilliant one with masks with words over different females' faces.
Oh, wow, how
In
great.
English, in Creole, and Spanish. And I invite everybody to please go on our website and look at those, because you can also share them. Let's go viral. And they'll say things like, my mouth is covered, but I still have my voice. Speak up against domestic violence. If staying home is more dangerous than going out, call for help. And all of those public awareness campaign advertisements have the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center number on them.
And so the resources are available to people that speak many languages. It's not just an English speaking, because this isn't just an English speaking city. So the resources are for everybody who can cover everything that's here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Essential.
How are you funded?
Through people who care. So the Women's Fund has endowment donors who did decide almost 30 years ago that they were going to bet on this organization, but the majority of what happens for funding for women and girls comes through both grassroots and major donors. So we have impact collaboratives that are free the first Thursday of every month, and now they're virtual. And a lot of people sign up for free, but some people put in $10 or $50 or $25 to support our work. We also have these domestic violence, human trafficking, depression, visual campaigns, and major sponsors will come in and support those. So you can support those individually or as a corporation on our website. So, for example, Kaufman and Rawson very consistently does a major public awareness campaign on Daddy, why do you pay women less? So it's an equal pay campaign. Florida Blue, for example, did amazing campaigns about drunk and distracted driving. We get grants from the Miami Foundation and from many other organizations. The more funding we get, the more we can. The more we can do.
I imagine, like most service organizations helping people, you're always stretched and desperate and
more than ever.
Yeah.
Right now,
especially
I knew as soon as COVID hit and we had to cancel the Power of the Purse, which is our major annual fundraiser, I got some calls about that, but most calls were, Maria, what are we doing about trafficking in times of domestic violence? What are we going to do for all these women and girls who are stuck at home and intimate partner violence is rising? What are we doing for those single mothers, head of household, who have the kind of jobs where either they're essential workers because they're healthcare providers, so they're going back and forth endangering their families and don't have health care for their kids, or child care, or those who've lost their jobs because women, frankly, have been the first ones to get hit.
Right.
So the needs are greater than ever, but we have so much we can do about them.
Right.
So if people are feeling frustrated about what can I do to help my community, we've got all kinds of places you can help.
Cash. Cash works.
It really does help.
And does a lot, and can save a life.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. Today was amazing. It was really amazing for me. Thank you for being here. Really, even if you don't think you know somebody, let the information out. Share this video. You really honestly could save a life. This is something very important. And, I want to, thank everybody here for allowing me to do this show. And it's amazing. And please come back next week for another show, and be safe and be strong.